work in your journals, I just have a note card here. You're going to have your oil pastels. I like to have a paper towel and a Q-tip. Okay? But for your journals today, you're not going to need that, but you may get them. The Q-tips are up at the front of the room. Sometimes I also use vegetable oil. So baby oil works awesome too. I think I'm going to buy baby oil when I run out of this vegetable oil just because it smells better. Yeah. But you just need a very, very baby bit, like a drop or two in the bottom of your container. You're not going to use a lot. So those are our supplies. First thing I want you to do is pick a color, any color. And I'm going to choose red. And I just want you to create a line using the edge or the tip, like the corner, the side of it. There's a hard edge. Notice how you can get a thinner line. Now if I go the opposite way on that edge, my line's going to be thicker. Go ahead and do that in your journal. So just be aware of the line's thickness, their variety or variance you can create just based on the tip.
Do it on here or do you do it on
It doesn't matter, whichever side works for you. All right, the next type of line that I wanted to talk to you guys about is just using the side. And sometimes people will take off their paper, which is completely acceptable. Just keep your colors in order so people know what's what. Like this one has no paper because it's been so used up. But this broke off of this purple. We just try and keep them together in our cart, or in our container. But it's okay if they break. It's natural. But you can use the side. And do you see that different texture that you get? And you can use the side oftentimes to fill in flat layers of color or shapes. So go ahead and experience what that feels like in your journal now. All right, and then hatching is just working in one direction with lines. Cross hatching is going to cross that. Like so. So hatching and cross hatching, I want you to do it in two analogous colors. So I'm going to pick red. Actually, I'm not going to pick an analogous color. I'm going to pick yellow so you guys can see that it'll create orange naturally. If I take my red and my cross hatch it with my yellow, I can create the orange. If I want it a darker orange, I use more red. And see how I can just, and those hatch marks start to disappear. All right, then I want you to go through half of that with your finger and see what happens when you smear it. Leave the other half raw. If you want a label smeared with finger, not smeared, so you can see the difference when you're going back to decide how you want to create your face values, you can go ahead and do that.
Are we allowed to grab a Q-tip?
Are you allowed to grab a Q-tip? Yes, they're up front if you want. But I will tell you, your skin, the oils on your skin do blend nicely. That's why I keep a piece of paper towel here too, to just keep wiping my hands on it. All right, the next thing that I want you guys to do is called stippling. And you've probably heard of or seen this before, but go ahead and stipple a square or a circle or an area with a color. You'll notice that different amounts of white show through and different, it goes on in different thicknesses when you stipple, so you get a very textured effect with stippling. I'm going to go ahead and grab a blue and stipple over top, and you can see how your colors might start to mix. It might start to look purple. I'm going to just do that on half.
Did you grab another color?
I did. So I'm layering. So now my blue looks more violet, right? Because it's right next to red. Even though it's blue, if I look at my two colors separately, it's blue. But if I look at it from a slight distance or I'm not paying attention to the details, it's going to look violet.
Can you grab another color?
You sure can. And then if you want to take and just smear through half of that with something so you can see again what's going to happen when you smear with stippling. You get kind of a variety in your values when you smear with stippling.
It's crazy.
Right? just like with colored pencil, you want to save details for last. If you're going to outline something, you're going to outline it last. I'm going to go ahead and have you guys all work kind of big. Like think, we're going to make an apple together in our notes. And I want you to think like the size of your fist. I'm going to work smaller just because I have these small little note cards I'm working on. But details are hard with oil pastels, so start a little bit bigger, like the size of your fist is ideal. Grab a red, it doesn't really matter which red, and just kind of like guess in an apple shape. And it doesn't have to be perfect. If your apple doesn't look round, that's fine.
Do you want us to make it big?
Like about the size of your fist. So when you are creating an oil drawing with your oil pastels, as you're making it, it's actually called an oil pastel drawing. But once you're finished with it, they call it oil pastel paintings because it looks more like a painting even though it's drawn. Right now I'm using contour lines, meaning I'm curving the lines in the direction that the apple goes out, and I'm going about halfway up. Then I'm going to do the same thing from the top, coming down, and I'm using kind of hatch marks, but my hatch marks are cross-hatching, if that makes, or are overlapping, if that makes sense. So I'm laying that in. Now I'm going to go in and make my color a little bit more solid in the areas that I really don't want the white to show through. I'm going to show form, and remember to show form, we need to show volume, and we do that with value. Well, with colors, it's a little bit different. So really look at mine and try and imitate what I'm doing at this point, and then I want you to kind of create on your own later on. Everybody gets that far?
Yeah, looks different.
That's okay if yours looks different. Now I'm going to grab a yellow. See that yellow? And I picked the bright yellow, but this one might be better for a learner. But I want you guys to really see that contrast, and on that projector it's kind of dark. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to layer over my red through the middle areas of it. I'm leaving some white just because I want to show you guys how to do a highlight. If you already filled it in, no worries, but I want to show you guys how to do a highlight later on, so I am leaving a white spot. So through the center where I want it to look like the light is hitting it, I'm going to pick a lighter color, and usually a warmer color where light is hitting it. Not always. Like right now, if you guys look at the projector, it's kind of a blue light, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it has a blueness to it. All right, then I'm going to go ahead, and you want to avoid black. I'm going to repeat that again. You want to avoid black when you're using oil pastels. So I'm thinking I could use the complementary color, green, but I don't want to completely neutralize my red. So I'm going to use a cool, I'm going to use a blue, and I'm going to show my shadows with blue. So my areas that I want darker, I'm going to use blue. Violet could work too. If you're working in cool colors, you could even use a brown, but you want to avoid black. I see a spot here I'm going to want a shadow, I think. And then I'm going to go back over with my red because I don't want it to look blue. I want it to look like a shadow of red. And again, I'm thinking about the direction in which I apply the medium. Bridger, you're doing awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
All right. And then I got some blue on my red, so I'm going to just kind of clean it off on my paper towel because now I'm going to go into the middle, and I don't want my shadows, my shadow colors to stand out. And I'm going to, I don't have any white, like my white was completely used up. So if you guys run out of white, I do have these big, huge ones. They're not as nice to use, but just like if you run out of a color, let me know so I can try and replace it for you. But I'm going to go through this center with the white, and the white's not going to stay white. It's going to mix with the red. See? And I can layer through that highlighted area. And then I can take, and right now I'm blending with my fingers. I've got the color laid on how I want it. I'm blending with my fingers. And if it looks too blue, I can add red. If it looks too white, I can add red. Here I feel like I want it a little bit warmer, so I'm actually, instead of adding red, going to add some yellow. And then some apples have green going through them. I'm going to grab like a bright green and like just pull some of that green through where I might see some green in my apple. And then up at this top area where there's the shadow or this divot, I'm going to use a detail. Now I have one little detail in this for you so I can show you how I like to use my Q-tip. And I recommend a Q-tip instead of your blending stump because your blending stumps work great for oil pastels. I just don't have enough to give you two. One for a pencil and one for oil pastel. So I recommend keeping the one that you have in your pencil kit. So I can go ahead and blend with the Q-tip here, and then I'm going to make my little stem coming out of my apple, the classic cliche apple here. And voila. If I wanted to, I could put a shadow. I might do my shadow in blue. Okay. I'm going to give you guys maybe a minute, and then I'm going to demo an eye just because I want you to experience that before you tackle it on your face. You can pause and we'll do a new video. If you want